Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Liverpool Latest. My name is Matt. Thanks for joining me on another episode today, minus the hiccups. Sorry about that for yesterday's episode. Um, that said, if you enjoy the video, leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Helps me out, helps Fan Arch out in this endeavor that we are on together. Couple things to talk about today as far as the latest news goes for Liverpool. I read something today that Giorgi Mamardashvili was said to be disappointed over the fact that he did not start in the FA Cup match against Brighton just a short time ago. Instead, that start went to Allison. And frankly, I wasn't upset about the decision. I was surprised because usually FA Cup matches, at least under Klopp, were designated for backup goalkeepers. As everybody knows, Alisson Becker would play the Premier League games or even the Champions League, and the FA Cup or Carabao Cup games would be designated for Kelleher when he was number 2 on the squad. So some people question the decision to not have Mamardashvili start in goal that game, and he, being Mamardashvili, was also said to be disappointed about the decision. And there's a couple of points to make about it. One, it goes to show just how much of a philosophical shift Arne Slot is having with the club, where, according to some reports, he is not necessarily he's not what's the word I'm looking for? He's not deputizing him, but instead he is competing with Allison for starts in goal. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how much I like that idea. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be the biggest Mamardashvili fan. My thoughts about him have been very clear over the course of the season. I'm not the biggest Mamardashvili fan. That also comes with the fact that we were also dog shit while we had him in net when Alisson Becker was hurt in the fall. So there's a couple of different factors. Maybe I was a little bit too harsh on him, but from my point of view, I didn't really see anything that sparked me as, oh my God, he's great. He's good. He's good. But he's not Alisson Becker level good. There's a reason why Becker's number 1 and he's number 2. That said, if you want my frank and honest opinion, which of course you do, you wouldn't be on this video to begin with, I think the philosophical shift of not having secondary goalkeepers start matches for domestic competitions is a bit of a, I don't think it is a good decision. One, because how does Slot expect Mamardashvili to compete when he is essentially not even able to show his talent doing anything because he's not playing in goal? Maybe practice might have a factor in that, but again, how are we supposed to gauge how a player plays in practice as opposed to in real life competition? So in that case, I agree with the Mamardashvili point that he probably should be starting domestic competitions. Would I be a little bit more on edge about it as far as how we play these games? Yes. But I also can't expect him to be good if he doesn't get his reps in. And the same could have been said with any of our newer players here on the team. I mean, look at Isak. He struggled for quite a while, was starting to get a little bit of momentum, and then unfortunately got hurt. I'll be talking about him in the next segment here. And then look at Kirkez. Very rough start to the season. And now has become one of our most reliable players at the left back position. Same thing with Ekitike. He's been more or less pretty consistent throughout the course of the season. Verts had a bit of a slow burn start as well. And again, that comes with time, and that comes with putting them into the fire. And I think the fact that, one, we didn't actually move anybody, like Mamardashvili wasn't sold away in the January window, should give some indication that Slot does trust Mamardashvili, but does he trust him enough to start him in domestic competitions, and it seems like right now that is not the case. So this merit-based system that Slot is trying to implement, this redefining of squad hierarchy and cut priorities. I don't necessarily know if that coincides with Mamardashvili's role at the club, because if you want someone to be a reliable number two, you got to have him play. That's why Kelleher became so reliable, especially when Allison got hurt, because there was times where Kelleher was even more so reliable than Allison was when he wasn't playing. So maybe my thoughts on Mamardashvili might change in the future, but right now it doesn't seem like that is the case, and it seems like that's not the case for Slot either. I would like to know how you guys feel about that, because the goalkeeping situation that we are currently in has been something of has been like a dispute within my soul for the better part of the season because of my feelings towards Mamardashvili. But we'll see what happens. Speaking of seeing what happens, it seems like Alexander Isak is slowly but surely coming back into the fold as early as late March, which I expected. I've talked about it a little bit. It's no shock to me that he be back that early, or maybe as late as the first week or two of April. Here's what I say. Would it be the best scenario to have him on the field? Yes. But I saw a post today by a fellow Liverpool fan that kind of changed my perspective a little bit. Yes, are we a little bit worse for wear as far as strikers go? We can always use an extra one. I agree with that point. That said, I would rather the club focus on Alexander Isak's fitness and making sure that he is healthy enough to have a better season next year, as opposed to throwing him back into the fire only for him to possibly get hurt again, and the process has to start all over, potentially at longer if it's a worse injury. So while this might be controversial to some, I believe that the sooner we can have him on the field might not be the best option in the long run for us. If we can get him as fit as we possibly can, as healed up as we possibly can, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be a absolute demon next season in August, when and then that 100+ million contract we gave him, maybe it was like what, 125, something like that, maybe 150, I don't even know. It was a lot of money, I know that much. That will then it will be justified. Clearly, with 2 Premier League goals and 10 appearances, and seems like I didn't read my notes down far enough, £125 for the transfer fee. It's going to be, I would rather him be healthy, and I would rather him be ready to go as opposed to throwing him in. Maybe he could play the last couple of games of the season. Maybe if we make it farther in the Champions League, he could be an option. But I'm not going to sit here and say that he should be starting as soon as the first week of April. I think that would be ludicrous, considering he has barely played any matches all year. So I would like to know what you guys think about this as well, because I am of the opinion that maybe it's not in our best interest to have him play as much for the rest of the season, just to make sure that he is fit enough and that he is healed enough, and that he could probably develop a little bit more skill as well. Another thing I'd like to touch on was kind of a catch-up point from a previous discussion I had in the week, was Anthony Gordon. Seems like he is responding to the very fresh rumors that he is interested in joining Liverpool. And it seems like his reaction to the whole thing was very much like, this is news to me type deal. Now let's kind of move back a little bit. He scored 4 goals in the Qarabağ game in the Champions League for Newcastle, which is quite good, honestly. Like, that's actually pretty good, but Qarabağ is also really bad. So it shouldn't be too hard for someone like Anthony Gordon to score that much. But what he did say, in addition to those goals, was that the links to Liverpool were, quote, all a load of rubbish. But he also said that he hasn't heard anything, and he certainly is focused on Newcastle at the moment, and that the media are picking names out of a hat, to create headlines, which would not shock me in the slightest. It seemed like kind of a bit of a media headline when I first reported it. I liked the idea of it possibly happening, but deep down I also know that the media will create narratives that will allow people like me to jump on them and discuss them and create more clicks for articles and such. So, you know, it does not shock me that his reaction to this. And you know what? I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't leave Newcastle for quite some time, because clearly he's doing quite well for himself there, especially post Isak. It's given him more of an opportunity to shine in his own right. So, and plus the contract reality of things might not be up to our what we would want to do right now. I mean, 80 million to 100 million plus pounds is a lot of money. A lot of money. And money that I'm not sure we're willing to spend, at least not in the foreseeable future, considering we just spent almost 500 million the previous year. So Newcastle probably don't want to sell him, and that also doesn't mean that Liverpool's not necessarily interested in trying to acquire him, or should I say, they are not interested in trying to acquire him. But it seems like it's all news to Anthony Gordon, who is a bit shocked by such headlines being released, especially considering the performance he had in the Champions League, which is a very big performance. I mean, it's not often we see many players score a hat trick, but 4 goals, that's nuts. Last but certainly not least is another headline I saw today that apparently Virgil van Dijk is in the process of potentially naming his successor when it comes to captain of Liverpool. Now, put this into perspective. Virgil van Dijk is an aging player. He's in his mid-30s, kind of on a bit of a steady decline as of right now. This has not been his best season. Doesn't mean he's still not quality, but he's had some struggles this season. I can't imagine he's going to be playing at this level for much longer, at least at Liverpool. I believe at the end of his contract, he will probably walk away into the sunset. I don't know about retiring, because I'm sure he'll have plenty of playtime left. But as far as a Liverpool player goes, I don't see that happening. As the current captain, you would also want to have an idea of who you want to be your successor for the future. After all, Jordan Henderson, who I think was probably one of the longest tenured captains we've had, was a big deal, and James Milner was a previous vice captain. Now, Dominic Szoboszlai's name did happen to slip out. Now, I'm not saying that he endorses Szoboszlai as the next captain, or that he's suggesting that his succession is imminent, but he did say it's up to the manager, and that Szoboszlai has, in fact, led by example, especially this season when he's been probably such a force for us between some of his incredible free kick goals, his defending, his movement of the ball. He's easily been our best player. There's no doubt about it. The only other person I could think of who's even up there is Ekitike and Wirtz. Like, that's like my top 3 right now. Okay? So it would make sense that Dominic Szoboszlai's name is being put in the conversation. I don't know if Virgil van Dijk said that he wants him specifically. It doesn't seem like that's the case, given by what I have read and what I have on my notes. But the more I see this conversation had, the more I believe down the line, if and only if Dominic Szoboszlai could sign an extension, he could be Liverpool's next captain. Do I know who will be vice captain? No idea. But I believe Szoboszlai does earn that role without a shadow of a doubt. But in the end of the day, the article I read is more of Van Dijk is not so much Van Dijk picks the next captain. It's more of the legitimizing of Szoboszlai as part of the leadership cycle, which I believe is as important as officially naming him the successor. The good news is that it's probably on the verge of happening. It's a slow burn. Like I said, Virgil's got plenty of time left, about another year or so. His contract ends. Same thing with Mohamed Salah. I believe they both go out together in a blaze of glory. That's my prediction. I have every right to be very disappointed if that is not come to fruition. But that is all I have for Liverpool Latest today. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment your thoughts down below. And most importantly, subscribe, because when you join the Liverpool Latest family, remember, you never walk alone.